And that hammer and the cocaine story got worldwide press. I think their site basically exploded. So when we first started, I always had this fascination growing up. My father's service shop was down the street from Rentec, who was one of the most famous Mercedes tuners in the world. And I fell in love with all of these V8, German hot rods that would fly up and down the street. And I got to see a lot of the old pre-merger AMG cars. I'd walk over to Rentec or I'd see these. And growing up, I fell in love with the cars. My father hated them. He didn't understand them. So one of the first things that when we started Curated, I really wanted to sort of find and research these old cars. We were lucky enough to discover the Car and Driver cover car, one of the prototypes. We discovered one of the original AMG Hammer prototypes that was actually featured in Road and Track, Car and Driver, like all of the magazines. And thankfully, because of Steven, who's part of the Curated team, we've been able to find some really incredible SEC wide bodies, SEC 6 liters. And at even one point, about 3 years ago, I found probably one of the best SEC AMGs in the world. It was basically a one owner, 26,000 mile car, fully documented. So I've sort of gone down this rabbit hole with the help of Steven, researching pre-merger AMGs. And I think if a roof Yellowbird is $2 million, these are the same cars. These are the original cars that were on the cover of magazines. They put AMG on the map. It's the company it is today because of these early cars. And there's probably, there's 13 US hammers. There's probably another 15 worldwide hammers. And then when you start doing the numbers, and you include SECs and all these other cars, there's probably 200, pre-merger 6-liter AMG cars in the world. So the numbers are just extremely rare. Every time they build thousands of AMGs today, you're building a new generation of potential collectors in the future. I'm always searching. We're always searching, and Steven's always searching. And we knew on our list, we've created a registry and a list of these US cars. There were a few cars missing, and one of them we knew was the former MLB player, Rob Deere. We knew this car was missing, and we knew that it was somewhere out west. Who knows? It was in the US still. In that process, we had also heard rumors that one of Jay Leno's mechanics actually owned a Hammer. So we'd heard all these different rumors, and now today there's probably 2 or 3 cars missing. This was one of them that we'll talk about. And one day I'm on Instagram, and I'm just searching, and someone sends me this photo of a Hammer. Wow, what is that? I immediately, message the guy back, and he goes, "Hey, don't say anything." Of course, I'm going to say something. But this is at a local mechanic shop, and it's an original gray Hammer. So right away, I send it to Steven. And he's like, "Oh my God, that's the car." And I said, "Yeah, that's the car." So we start going back and forth with this guy. And he goes, "Listen, I'll tell you where the shop is. Don't tell him that I sent you the picture, but I'll introduce you to the owner." Tells me where the shop is. The next morning, I call the guy, I cold call the guy. And I said, "Hey, I believe you have this Mercedes AMG at your place. Do you mind telling me something about it?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, can maybe ask the owner if he wants to call me? I'm very interested." So a day later, I get a call from the owner of this shop and the owner of the car. And he basically starts telling me a little bit about the car. At first, he was a little sort of standoffish. And I explained to him about, who we are, what we do. And I was literally just trying to understand, one, what the car was. Yes, I would love to purchase it, but I'd love to fill it in the place on our registry. Tells me about the car. He tells me he bought it 20 years ago. And he starts telling me this story about this drug dealer car. And I think the story's been on VINwiki before, and I'm just getting all excited because it sounds like the car is incredibly well preserved. There's been sheepskins on the seats, so the leather's preserved. He told me it had a little paintwork, but mostly original paintwork. And he basically told me that the car was running great. So I start negotiating with this guy immediately. I mean, I'm drooling over this car, 19,000 original miles. And he basically tells me, "Hey, I'm sorry, but I believe I've committed the car to an auction." So a few days go by, and I'm just like, "Hey, what is it going to take? Is it, 300,000?" And he starts laughing at me, and I was like, 400,000. Like, give me an asking. What are you asking? And he's like, "No, no, 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 no. You're making great offers, but I believe the car will do all the money at auction." And I tell him, quite frankly, I said, "Listen, I think the car needs a little work. Historically, These cars haven't done well at auction. I believe that I can sell this car for more money on the private sale than an auction, my opinion. I said, listen, I think it's, potentially worth, between 400,000 and 600,000, and who knows today. So we start going back and forth, and we're like playing this cat and mouse game. I finally just said, just give me a number. He wouldn't. And I finally said, you know what? I wish you the best. I really, wherever it goes to auction, I'll probably be bidding, but I really think it's best for you. I think I'm going to be paying top dollar now. And really, historically, I think hammers had always traded between 400 and 600,000. None have come to market. They never come to market. And this was an exceptional car. So about a month goes by, and I hear all of a sudden that the guys at MB Marketplace have secured this hammer for their auction. And it actually it made sense. He kept mentioning to me that they were chasing him, and it was someone in the Mercedes world. Sounds like he was a man of his word because he promised them he would commit it to the auction. I just, said, okay, so we're gonna bid on this thing and we're gonna chase this thing to the end. At first it sort of struggled. The first few days on auction, I think it barely broke $200,000. And I was actually pretty sure. I said, watch, we're gonna end up with this car. We're gonna buy it at a fair price. And I think in the world today, there's so many nuances with these cars, and anyone that's buying a hammer needs time to inspect the car. They want to do their research. It's not like there isn't an official registry of these cars. So you really have to know what you're looking at as well. You have to look at the rear subframe. There's all these things. And I just said, I don't think, because there's so many nuances of a hammer, I don't think someone's going to be able to make a decision like that with an auction. So the final day comes, and I think at this point it maybe bid up to like 300,000, 250,000. We start bidding, and then we get outbid, and then we start bidding again, and then we get outbid, and suddenly this thing's like 350, 375, 400, 425, 450, and it is actually like getting out of control. So I knew in my mind that I was willing to pay above the last record of a hammer that was sold. So I knew I was ready to pay well over 600,000. It was a new world record at the time, and I ended up bidding against a very major collector. He had contacted us through other channels recently to buy another car. So we were bidding and we were bidding. And in the last like 5 minutes, in the last 2 minutes, there were a ton of glitches with the site. I don't think the guys at MB Marketplace realized just how many people were watching this. You've got a generation of people that know what a hammer is. They know what the Countach is, the Testarossa, all these cars. These cars are so iconic now. And that hammer and the cocaine story got worldwide press. I think their site basically exploded the last minute. And somehow we were lucky enough to get in some bids, so I was pretty happy. And it sort of felt like it was dying off. There was one guy and another guy, and it felt like we were going to win the car. And then I made one last final bid, and boom, we get the car. And I am so excited because, again, I go back to this theory of sometimes for the right cars, you have to pay a world record price. And that doesn't mean you've overpaid. It just means that's the new market value. And listen, if there was two other people bidding all the way up, they believe it's worth that as well. So, I think in certain cars at certain points, while we don't buy cars at auction all the time, sometimes you have to make a statement like that if you're passionate about something. And guess what? Paying up for the right car is never going to hurt you in the long run. And I believe that. Within, I would say, the next 30 minutes to an hour, everyone's congratulating us. People are making posts. People are saying, wow, we are curated. The guys at Curated just broke a world record, $661,000 for an AMG Hammer. And I felt like a rock star, honestly. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I was excited to get the car home. We had our upcoming Carolina rally. We were featuring 80s and 90s cars. There was a massive Hammer reunion at the bridge. So I figured we were going to use this car over the next 4 to 5 months, show it, feature it at events, and we were going to have a blast with this car. Eventually one day sell it, but it'd be important to the company to have this car around because we are AMG nuts. So I was very excited, and that excitement died when I got a message from the guys at MB Market, and he said, hey, apparently one of the other bidders is complaining because they were bumped off the site. They couldn't log back in. There were some glitches with the site. They feel that, they got screwed. Let's be smart about this. I'm a dealer. I was buying the car for a profit. How about this? Let me use the car for the events I wanted to use. We've got the rally. We've got the show. and I'll charge them a fee for my interest. And we do a deal, like, to make everybody happy. I get to use the car. We get the promotion out of this. Amazing. And he wasn't having that. I thought my proposal would work. It didn't. The gentleman was pretty upset. He wanted to basically, have some sort of a new bidding or re-auction, the car. And I said, how about a sealed bid? Go back to all the top bidders and see who bids the most. And I actually felt like I was still going to win the car. I said, listen, I'm going to bid 705. No one's going to bid more than me. We're going to get the car. So we all submit our bids. And I actually, because I knew the former owner of the car, current owner of the car, I called him and I said, hey, Scott, I think this is the right thing to do. I just want everybody happy, and at the end of the day, listen, you've owned this car for 20 years. You deserve to get the most for your car, whatever it is. All I ask is just let me at least match whatever their offer is. And he starts laughing and, we're sort of, and I said, no, I want the right thing for the car and you. I would love to have the car for 2 months, but whatever's meant to be is meant to be. I got to tell you, Scott, I'm probably going to be the highest offer in the end. He says, you sure about that? I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you sure? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, this underbidder just called me. And I'm like, okay. I said, well, am I gonna win the car? He goes, I don't know. And he goes, can you match 100,000 more? And I was like, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, this guy must not like you. And I actually ended up laughing. I said, no, I don't know the guy. And I said, 100,000 more. He said, yeah. I said, well, he definitely bid, he outbid my high bid, if it was sealed or not. But 761,000 is a world record. So, unfortunately, we lost the car. In the end, I think we did the right thing. I think it was fair to Scott. I think it was fair to the car. I think it was fair to AMG enthusiasts, to the new owner as well. It was a little bitter, but we somehow turned that around. And what was sort of funny is about 2 months before that, we had a very good client of ours that works with Matthew Ivanhoe at Cultivated Collector. And he called us and he said, hey, I've got this blue on blue AMG Hammer 6-liter wide body coupe. And he goes, I'm putting this car up for a bid. Someone's offering me the car. And I didn't know it was actually Matthew that was offering me the car. What do you think? I go, buy it. Just buy it. Like, you have to buy this car. So while all this was going on, this AMG 6-liter wide body was actually in a container heading to the West Coast to actually Mercedes Classic Center. I called Matthew right away and I said, hey, I want to buy another Hammer. Let's figure something out. In the meanwhile, the funny part was that we had a client that was interested in, pre-merger AMGs, and he reached out to us and he was looking for a wide body 6-liter Hammer. So it ended up working out where we lost this car at auction. It hit a world record price. Matthew had this other car coming into the States through one of our really good clients. We had another client that had to have this car. He was in no rush. He respected our brand. And I said, question, if I sell you this other blue Hammer, can we use it for our rally and can we use it at the Bridge car show? And he goes, of course. So we ended up buying the car. We ended up selling it to him. It was a new world record price, almost 800,000 or above 800,000, which is wild. But it's also warranted when you think just how rare these cars are, when you think what their competitors' roofs are bringing and their importance to the AMG brand. So it ended up working out for everybody. I think we did the right thing, and we were able to witness 2 record AMG Hammer sales.
Hey, I'm Ed Bolian from VINwiki, and recently I accidentally bought another manual transmission LP640 on Cars and Bids. Unfortunately, I was bidding with money that I did not immediately or very easily have, and so my first call was to Premier Financial Services. The simple lease from Premier Financial Services is the most powerful tool in the world of exotic car financing. You get all the benefits of a traditional loan, like the ability to accumulate equity, pay it off at any time, and see exactly where you stand with an amortization table, but also all the great things about a lease, the tax treatment, the low payments, and things like that. So check out Premier Financial Services at the link in the description below to thank them for their support of VINwiki and to find out just how easy it can be to afford your dream car with Premier, or another one if that happens to you.